everyone! Hope you're having a swell day / night wherever you are. My name is Ems Melody, and today I'm gonna talk about some of my random D&D stories, but more so how I got into playing Dungeons & Dragons, aka D&D. Minor note, with the speed paint in the background, I forgot to record the last bit, which was the shading, so at the end there is a very, very jarring jump cut, and I apologize for that. So, these stories will be coming from my first ever campaign of Dungeons & Dragons that I played. This was way back in 2017 when a friend at the time asked me if I wanted to make a character for a D&D game he was running. I hadn't heard of D&D before then, so I said sure. In a few days, we had a call where he introduced me to the point system for character creation. Personally, I don't like this method, as when I was introduced to it, it was very, very confusing. But that's also probably because I was a major noob. This was the first ever character I was creating for Dungeons & Dragons. Yeah. I personally prefer rolling for stats, but that's just me. At the time, I was still a noob at the game, so that's probably why I was very confused about a lot of things. But at this point in time, I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for 3 years now, and honestly, there's still a lot I can learn. So, for character creation, we did the point system, and I chose a wood elf for my race. Here's a picture on screen of her first design, but I did later redesign her, up on screen right now. She was supposed to be a ranger, but if any of you players know anything about D&D, ranger is probably one of the weakest base classes. She actually ended up becoming a fighter that used a bow. She was the first D&D character I created, and I've been going on about this for quite a bit now. So, this wood elf fighter was called Senlin Fuyon, which I think translates directly to forest healer or something like that. I show up, and our first mission is going through this dungeon type thing, which was run by humans. Now, this is noteworthy because Senlin hates humans. She's outwardly racist towards humans. In her backstory, which is a whole nother thing, Senlin was a sapling given to a king whose wife had died and become a forest goddess, and she grew up and turned into a child, blah blah. Humans came and ransacked and destroyed her home. Completely burned it to the ground. Her father died, and she got away and became a wanderer seeking revenge upon the Federation. The Federation is the name I have given to the villains of this game because I can't remember the name for the life of me, but I'm pretty damn sure it was Fred. Anyway, in the complex, we did a lot of things, go through a bunch, and we haven't even done 3 sessions when the current DM is like, I don't want to DM anymore if she, aka me, will be there. So my buddy Quinn took over as the DM. I don't remember a whole lot from the beginning, other than our party, which consisted of me, a druid fighter who is the daughter of Satan and somehow my cousin, a trapmaster fairy who is 2 inches tall, and a constantly drunk furry. We murder everyone and leave the complex and go our separate ways. I'm able to find my way back to my kingdom, which has been taken over primarily and protected by spiders. From there, a lot happens, and I don't actually remember a lot. I just know a lot did happen, but I also do get this first half confused with the second half of the game. One of the more noteworthy stories was the time Senlin nuked an orphanage and this caused a continent TPK. So, for those who don't do D&D lingo, TPK is total party kill. You can already kind of see where this is going, I guess. So, in my tavern, I got a notice that there was a nearby village looking for help with a witch infestation. I accept, hop on a spider, and ride out to the village. We get there and get confirmation about the witch in the castle. I head in with the spider outside, and I am met with an empty room. I looked around with my bow drawn, and nothing aside from a closet was really jumping out at me. I opened the door to the closet, reluctantly, and was ambushed by 3 enchanted blades. A battle breaks out, and everyone is rolling like shit. One sword dies once it's shot out because it hit the wall too hard, and 2 others are still alive, managing to stop before they hit the wall. I take them on, and one ends up smashing itself, trying to fly at me for kind of like a dash attack, and the last one got stuck in my shoulder. I grabbed a ball and chain, which I actually called a mace in the session, but it was a ball and chain, from the floor and told the DM, I'm going to use this ball and chain to smack the sword through my arm. I rolled a 1. The DM describes as how I not only whack the sword through my arm, but completely chop my arm clean off. The sword hit the floor and shattered. I was left there with my arm on the floor and a ball and chain in hand. I go to the next floor and use all of my spell slots to basically reconnect my arm to my shoulder. That was interesting. The next floor was just a shit ton of twig blights, and if you know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, you've probably heard of twig blights. They're just mutated twigs with like 1 to 2 HP, and I think we rolled a D100 and there ended up being 60 something, close to 70 in there. It was really obnoxious, but quite a lot of fun to just experiment with ways of twirling around and killing a lot of things. So after that, I went up to the roof to confront the witch. I began talking with the witch, and she offered me a deal. She handed me a potion with the nuclear symbol on it, and because of my character, she would not know what the symbol meant. She just knew the potion looked really sketch. She then asked me to explode the orphanage. I don't remember why she wanted me to explode the orphanage exactly, but the other player that showed up that day was giving me death glares up the ass. She was so upset at me and was like, don't you fucking dare throw that bomb at the orphanage. There are children in there, Emily. There are living human children. Human children! I throw the bomb! So, I threw the bomb, jumped off the castle, and onto the spider, and sped the fuck out of there. We rolled some dice to see how fast I would go versus how fast the potion was spreading. I ended up going somewhere around 93 to 95 miles an hour, whereas the potion was moving so slow. I can't remember how fast exactly it was going, but we rolled a D1000 and it was a single-digit number. Luck was on my side that day. So you're probably wondering, how does all of this lead into you TPKing a continent? So a few sessions go by, and like I said earlier, I can't exactly remember a lot that happened. However, I do remember this major plot point. The DM was actually getting very frustrated with having to essentially just take over somebody else's entire story because they got pissy. And I totally feel that. Honestly, it was kind of a trash story and world. All of our characters were broken. Like, I remember somebody's character had, I think, an 8 in one stat, and their modifier was like 17. It was very, very broken. This one session, everyone's there. Like, almost all of the people in our campaign were there that day. And this group consisted of me, the Trap Master, the Drow Fighter, a Disposable Knight, another Drow Sorcerer, and a couple other people. I can't remember who they are, but I know we had a cat girl. Basically, what happened was everyone was kind of in their respective territories. We had a couple new players that day, but that wasn't really a big deal. When the Paladin guy had been conversing with the DM about how we were going to basically get into a new world, because he was so done with this. And I think at that point, the original DM who, like, created this mess, like, left. Like, straight up just left the game and left town. So that is a whole nother thing. So, from there, the Paladin, I think it was a Paladin, I really don't remember. It was a really disposable character. He was wandering down the coast when he saw an island that hadn't been there before. He tells the DM, "I'm swimming to the island." And the DM was not very happy about this. You'll understand why in a moment. The Paladin is swimming out there through all the turns, and we're kind of just doing our own normal thing. I think at this time, Senlin was in the middle of, like, a raid from the Federation or something. Like, there was a battle that was about to begin or something. I really, really don't remember. But what I do remember is what happened when the Paladin touched the island. When the Paladin touches the island, he basically disintegrates into a beam of light. This light can be seen from everyone on the continent, as we are transported from our current location to this island. As we all look back, standing on the island, no one really knows each other. So my character looks back and sees the continent be swallowed in a great dark mist and dragged into the sea. So that's kind of Senlin's whole character arc done. The Federation is gone. She got justice in kind of an indirect way. All hope was saved, right? So as we're kind of like getting to know each other on the island, we notice that we're drifting. Now, islands don't drift. So I go out and I start exploring. And through my exploration, I realize that this is no ordinary island. This is a creature of some sort. I don't know what kind of creature, but it's a creature. And with this knowledge, I began exploring even more. Everyone was just kind of standing around, because at that point, I had kind of just taken charge of the whole thing, which is something very common in my sessions, I've noticed. I kind of just take charge of everything, and I don't know. So I end up discovering that we are on a god turtle. So I discover we're on a god turtle. Now, I'm asking the turtle who they are and, like, what they're doing and where they're taking us. And the turtle gives very ambiguous answers. Now, apparently, this turtle has been around longer than the universe itself, which is kind of weird now that I'm thinking back on it, but you know what? Who needs logic when you have dragons, you know? from there on, we kind of just ride the turtle, you know? We ride the turtle as a portal opens up and we drift into a new plane. And basically, this is kind of the bridge of existence. It is where we go from all of the different realms and universes and basically are just able to freely drift through there and see where we end up. So from this, we ended up going to the second part of the DM's planned game. And on this was a much more well-built thing. And once we're introduced to this new land, that is where that session ended. After the session, I go up to my DM and I'm like, hey, would you mind if I, redid Semlin's stats? And he was like, well, at that point, you're really just making a new character because the stats are kind of what define your character. I'm like, yeah, that's right. But I didn't want to stop playing Senlin. So here was the solution. The next session, we go into town after going across, I think it was either a Cobalt or a Kenku bridge. It began with something weird. But, we get across the bridge and are on the other side where we're in the town. In the town, we get some type of mission. I really don't remember what it was, but it led to one of the strangest things I've ever experienced in D&D. We go on a little mission type thing, and we come across a ravine. I come up with the brilliant idea of tying a rope to an arrow, getting up in a tree, and shooting across to another tree so that we basically have like a little zip line. I tie the rope on the branch, and now we have a zip line to use. However, my dumbass decides to use the bow. And a little background on her bow. Her bow is basically a symbol, another symbol of her mother, aka her god. And it was a gift from her mother, I think it was. Because it's made out of like a really rare wood material. But yeah, it was a really important bow to Senlin. And I used the bow as my zipline. Bad idea. Very bad idea. Because halfway through, the bow snapped. And I fell into the ravine. After, I think a couple other of our players fell into the ravine as well. But basically, we all are either down in the ravine or on the cliffside. And if you were on the cliffside, you basically got ignored for the rest of the session. So, once we're down there, we're all like chained up in a line, and a figure walks in. We aren't really sure who they are, but the DM makes note of my pendant glowing, which is something it only did in the other world when I was around a temple to my mother. So, I'm like, wait a second, who are you? When the figure pulls back the hood and reveals it is a two-headed being that is my dad. So, I got bamboozled hard on this one. So, bear with me for a second while I try to explain this. So, the DM basically explains to me how my father, the king, was a gay man who had a husband who died and became the god of forest healing and nature. And after the king died, the two of them rose up to heaven together and became one sentient being who is now a god. And they give Senlin the option of staying here as a mortal or transcending to a god or goddess. Senlin chose to go with her father and become a goddess. and in a flash of bright, brilliant light, the rest of the party and the people on the cliff are transported back into town, but without Senlin. And that is where that session ended. Hope you guys enjoyed those really weird stories from my first ever game of Dungeons and Dragons. And please don't hate me for nuking an orphanage. Oh boy. So, I am very sorry for not posting at all this year. I got really busy, school happened, but yeah, I hope to get back into this very soon. Hope y'all are having a swell-ass day or night. Please stay safe, wash your hands, keep your masks on for God's sake. This pandemic is not something to be taken lightly. And I hope I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!